Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Welcome back into another edition of PTN Extra. I'm Evan Kamiko. That's Mike Irwin. Mike, we're going to talk about UAB in a little bit. Kate Doyle from the Arkansas soccer team will also join the show after the break. But first and foremost, we need to talk about what's pressing today. And it's a day of remembrance of what happened 23 years ago in New York City, when the day the Twin Towers collapsed due to a terror attack on our country. And just, we're going to get into all of it. And I really want to talk about this. This isn't going to be anything about politics. It's just going to be about sports and the ability that sports has to heal our country, and that it did have 23 years ago. I want to first break down with you, Mike. You're going to remember it a lot better than I was. I was 6 months old. My dad was in downtown New York, about 20 blocks away from it. So for you, what do you remember from that day?
Well, it was the second week of football season. Arkansas had already had a game. Now you're preparing, and it's early on in the Houston Nutt era. And I was at home that morning just basically doing what I always do, just sort of getting ready mentally for a lot of work later on that day. And when this thing happened, it doesn't happen, you don't instantly know what's going on. At first, it was just like I thought a plane hit the building. I mean, a building, that does happen. I mean, there was a World War II bomber that ran into the Empire State Building, and now that's what I remember thinking. And then later on, when the second tower gets hit, then you're like, what is going on here? But I think I was at work before I finally realized that they were talking about that there were other planes involved. Suddenly you knew there was a really strange thing going on. And it was just surreal. I mean, you're just kind of walking around going, how did this happen?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people asking themselves that question exactly, asking what is going on. But what's really important to remember, and the main focus of what we're going to talk about in this A block, is the impact that sports had after. The sports world pretty much shut down. Really, the last time it's done that was COVID, when everything in sports shut down because of COVID. But you had MLB games getting postponed for the first time in 50 plus years. The NFL was very iffy whether or not they were going to play that weekend. And you start hearing all of these stories and all of the things that sports had the power to do, whether it's, Wells Crowther, the red bandana man, who went in and saved the lives of, 20 plus people that day, or whether it's, President Bush throwing out the first pitch, Sammy Sosa running around with the American flag. In your opinion, when we talk about sports as something that could be powerful and something that could be good in this society, what do you remember about any big sports moment that happened after that tragic event?
Well, I mean, sports has always had the ability to kind of help in a situation like that, because generally politics isn't involved. So there's no division along those lines. You can go all the way back to World War II, and we've all seen that movie, A League of Their Own. And the premise there was you didn't have enough athletes to have Major League Baseball. And somebody thought, well, what do we do here? And then, well, there are a lot of women that aren't over in World War II. Let's have a women's league. And you saw how popular that became, because people, even during a war, and you had people, men and women that had kids over there fighting, but they just felt like go out to a ballpark and for a couple of 3 hours, you get this off your mind. So I think that's what was going on after 9/11 too. We gradually picked back up and realized, hey, you can go to a football game, or you can go to a baseball game, or whatever you do. And in Arkansas's case, that turned out to be the year that Matt Jones sort of caught everyone's fancy. He didn't really play until maybe the fourth game of the year. It's hard to remember. I think Weber State was a game where they suddenly went to him, and then after that, it was just Matt Jones, Matt Jones, Matt Jones, and they got all the way to the Cotton Bowl. And that was just a really good year in terms, if you're a Razorback fan, to kind of get your mind off that. It doesn't go away. You're not trying to minimize what happened, but I think you just need something during your day that you don't just focus on that all the time.
Right, we're really fortunate again to sit up here and do what we get to do every single day and talk about sports and bring you guys at home news about the Razorbacks. But there's some things that are worth remembering, and there's some things that, sports doesn't necessarily have the power to change. It doesn't change everything overnight, but to your point, Mike, it helps us, get through it and be able to say, hey, you're right, we can go and enjoy things in life just as they were before and just as they're going to be after and forever going to be, and just in general for, you see now with the Olympics and the ability to bring the entire world together and see all these American athletes and para-athletes, hoist gold medals and be able to accomplish everything they did. And it's not minimizing, again, everything that happened, but it's sports as a power to heal.
Yeah, and you can even, in these post-COVID years, it's not that long ago that COVID hit. And initially there were a lot of people telling us, hey, we can't have sports. And the SEC went, no, I think we can have sports. I think the Big 12 said, yeah. So you had I think the Big 10 and the Pac-12, they were saying, no, we can't play. We'll wipe the season out. And no, we're going to play. And of course, they had that SEC only schedule. But I think that helped. I think it helped. Everyone's scared. You got a lot of people staying at home. But I think they looked logically and saw that the problem with that COVID had, the first generation of COVID, was that it was affecting people 45, 50 years and older, and there were no examples, or almost no examples, of young men and women in their early 20s, late teens being affected by it. So cooler heads prevailed in the SEC and the Big 12, and they said, we're going to play, and then everyone else went, I guess we better play too. And so we did have football.
Yeah, and to your point there, I remember those years Justin Fields put out a survey of basically saying, sign this petition, we want to play football up in Big Ten country, and me and all my buddies, we signed it. But again, that's examples of how sports has the ability to help not only heal a country that needs it, but also inspire people and tell stories and be able to be that medium that gives people hope again and inspires people moving on. And we'll move forward from this conversation about that tragic day again, a day that we will never forget, especially here as we have Little Rock and Rogers, fire hats on honor for a little props, and of course had to bring the red bandana to honor Wells Crowther, former Boston College lacrosse player. But Mike, let's talk about UAB. That's what everyone at home wants to hear about. And look, we can sit up here and we can talk all we want about that Oklahoma State loss. They shot themselves in the foot, did Arkansas, and that's why they lost. But now you got to move forward. And how do they do that? What have you seen so far from your early scouting of UAB?
This is a team that they won their first game big, and then they lost their second game big. So it's kind of a mixed message here. I think you can assume they're probably a little bit better than UAPB, but I don't know how much better. But I do think that this is another game where Arkansas, especially coming off the week they had last week, I expect them to play really well. I expect they've already had a press conference, and the general consensus from that, hey, we made a mistake. We made several mistakes. We're not gonna let this ruin the rest of our season. We're gonna be accountable, and we're going to come back and we're going to play well. I think they'll play well enough that you'll see, again, some of these other, I think Braylon Russell's going to play early, and I'm not sure why he didn't, but against Oklahoma State, but I'm anxious to see him because I think he's a very complimentary athlete to Jaquindon Jackson. You don't go from this big, powerful, shifty running back to somebody that's smaller and maybe quicker, but not good in a situation where you got to have a yard or two. So I think everybody wants to see him. And then I still think the story as we continue to move forward will continue to be Taylor Green. I mean, this guy's numbers are incredible. He made a mistake. He threw a pick six, but if you go back and look at the pick six, he was blindsided. How many quarterbacks, when they're looking left and they have a receiver open to complete a first down into the red zone, are going to have eyes in the back of their head and see a guy come over? And the timing of it was just perfect, because if he gets hit before he releases it, then he just goes down for a sack. And if he gets it off, then he probably completes it for a first down. But if you're in the act of throwing and the ball is about to just leave your hand, the timing of that thing was incredible, because it was just as it was exiting his arm or his hand, and then it went off to the right and was picked off, and the guy goes around and goes for a pick six. So that's not his fault. It's not Sam Pittman's fault. You've got to understand that Oklahoma State has a good defense. Arkansas had their way against those guys in the first half, but they made second half adjustments, and you're not playing against air. The guy made a great play. Doesn't mean anything's awful about the offense or Taylor Green or anything like that. So I expect him to come back and have more good numbers and continue to get better, because that's the whole key here. You had a team, a very young Razorback team, that's got a lot of new parts, that they're still learning how to do certain things, going up against a team that was veteran. And so I'm not shocked that the veteran team didn't panic and came back and found a way to win. Now that's behind us. Now it's all about, what did you learn from that? You've gone in probably one of the most difficult situations you could have been in. That game is very much like playing an SEC team against a good SEC opponent. So you've done that now. You've learned. Now let's see what they do with that.
What to you Obviously, I think Arkansas has to get off to a strong start. They did that against Oklahoma State, going out, putting up 14 points on the board. Oklahoma State scores, then you go up 21-7. Arkansas got off to a fast start, but it's the close that I think is really important. To you, what do you want to see in that fourth quarter, the fourth quarter? Is it the offense generating points or the defense getting another turnover? Because they only got one turnover in that game.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It depends on how the game goes. I mean, if it's a closer game than we think, then you're still looking at the first unit, offense and defense, and yes, you want to see, what you want to see, I think, is a pass rush, because that's what they didn't have. Mm-hmm. And again, I don't think you're going to get a good look at what an SEC offensive line would look like against a pass rush, but that's probably the one area that I think there's a lot of concern about, is you had Landon Jackson, but they double-teamed him and chip blocked him, and they took him out of being effective. So who else can do that? Usually if you take a guy that's really good at something and you neutralize him by using 2 players, sometimes 3 players, well, there's somebody else that needs to be making that sack. So we want to see that.
Yeah, Arkansas unable to get that other person to really get any of those sacks against Oklahoma State. But I will say the interior of that defensive line did do really well in the beginning, slowing down the run game, giving Ollie Gordon a lot of fits against Oklahoma State. So you want to see that for UAB. Anything else, Mike, before we go to break?
Again, I just want to prepare people for this, because this is where we're at with this team. Let's say Arkansas wins big. You're going to have probably a third at least of the fan base that are going to sit around and complain about who they played. I've already seen complaints. Why are you playing this team? Are you kidding me? Go look at Arkansas' schedule. Are they supposed to play an Oklahoma State in every non-conference game? Are you so bored with things that if it's not a great challenge every week, you can't watch a game like UAPB or UAB? Come on. So yes, there'll be people complaining, and I would just ignore them. I would, unless that's your agenda. My advice to somebody else that may not have an agenda is watch the game and enjoy it.
Yeah, I think if people are going to complain, the thing to complain about is the fact that Arkansas has one home game here in Fayetteville in their first 5 games. Right. Remember, after this week, next week, SEC opens at Auburn, and then after that, you're in Dallas for Texas A&M. So if there's going to be any complaints from Arkansas fans, it should be the fact that if I was a student here, I'd be really mad that only getting one tailgate here in Fayetteville in the first 5 or so games.
Yeah, and the size of the crowd. Let's see how full it is.
Yeah.
Let's see what people do. I mean, we know that the attendance in Little Rock wasn't very good for that UAB or that UAPB game. So what's it like for this game?
Yeah, absolutely. Arkansas and UAB open the home opener for Fayetteville. Going to take place this Saturday at 3:15 p.m. You can find that on SEC Network. That's going to do it for this part of PTN Extra, but don't go anywhere. Kate Doyle from Arkansas Soccer, the number 4 team in the country, joins the show. When we come back, we'll be right back. Hello, everyone. Welcome back into PTN Extra. Really excited to be joined by Arkansas soccer star Kate Doyle, recent transfer from Gonzaga. Kate, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Let's get right into it. Let's start from the beginning. Take me all the way back. Let's talk even before you got to Arkansas. What got you into soccer?
I was 7 years old when I first started playing soccer. I was in kindergarten, and it was when my parents, they force you into all the sports, just trying to find something you like. And I really liked basketball, and so on my way to my first soccer practice, I was crying my eyes out. I didn't know anyone on the team. I was begging my mom to not make me go, and of course she did, and then now we're here, so I have to thank her.
What was it about soccer that you really loved? What was the part of it?
I think I've always, like any team sport, I think there's so much more rewarding, and you get so much out of it, just being able to collaborate with a bunch of people. My hand-eye coordination is not there. Mm-hmm. You can ask a lot of people. So I think, I don't know, as soon as I had a ball at my feet, it just made a lot more sense to me. And everything kind of fell into place a lot more.
So hand-eye wasn't good, but eye to feet was really good. Was that something you noticed early on, that you had something else in soccer that you were just really good at, or did it take a little bit and take some time to get there?
I think I noticed early on that it came more naturally to me, and then I think as I went more into soccer and then went away from a lot of the other sports, I think my hand-eye coordination got worse over time because I wasn't playing basketball anymore, so I didn't have the practice, but yeah. Yeah, I think it was pretty early on.
So take me through, let's talk high school. When you're starting to get recruited by a bunch of places, you end up at Gonzaga. What was that process like for you? You're from Seattle as well. So is that just kind of natural? You wanted to stay close to home? How did how'd you end up at Gonzaga?
Yeah, I mean, it's so different now, which I think is for the best. But when I was in high school, they could start recruiting you from the jump. So I started getting emails in 8th grade, which, like, you don't even know yourself as a person in 8th grade, let alone, you don't even know high school yet, let alone, like, you know, what you want in college. And I got lucky that it worked out for me and I ended up at a great place. But I think, like, at the time, it's like, I'm a freshman. I want to be close to home. Like, thinking about going across the country is crazy. So I think, yeah, wanting to be close to home. One of my best friends that was really talented, she had just committed to Gonzaga, and then that kind of put them on my radar. And then just talking to the coaches there, I just loved them, and I believed in them and what they wanted to do with the program and wanted to be a part of it. So made the call my freshman year spring, and I was very lucky to go there and to have everything work out the way it did.
So you were committed really early on. It did not take you that long. Was that intentional where you were like, I'm close to home, that's done? Or did you want to, you know, maybe keep seeing what was out there?
I went on a few other visits, and I loved Gonzaga the most out of them. They do kind of, all of the schools at this time especially, kind of put like a time zone on you in terms of, like, this amount of money is only going to be available for this long. So I think, like, it was kind of all of the schools were doing that. So, like, everyone around me was making the decision early. But, like, had I gone back, maybe I would have taken some more time and looked at a bunch of options. But that being said, I still think I would have chose Gonzaga in the end of it.
So I have to ask you a question. I'm from the East Coast. None of me and my friends really knew what Gonzaga was until it was March. Is that something that when you're there that's kind of talked about in, like, the Pacific Northwest, that mainly when people think of Gonzaga, it is March, it is basketball? How is that for somebody who's from that area and went to Gonzaga?
Yeah, it's funny because when I was in Seattle in, like, 8th grade, I didn't even know that Gonzaga was in Washington. I knew them from March Madness, but I didn't know that. And so, yeah, no, it's definitely an ongoing joke because you see things people don't even think it's a real school, like that we're just some, like, basketball pop-up. And then we always, you know, would make jokes on our team that, like, yeah, we're known for basketball and women's soccer now. Like, we're pushing to get known for that too, but it is pretty funny.
Is that something, have you had any of those conversations with anyone at Arkansas like that as well?
Yeah, well, you can just tell, like, when people are like, I mean, it's just like East Coast, West Coast, but, like, or even in the South, but, like, when I'm like, oh, I went to, like, Gonzaga, people are like, oh, and, like, you can tell they're, like, in their head trying to put it together, like, where it is and, like, what it's about and stuff. But, yeah, you can definitely tell.
So you end up going to Gonzaga, had a really good career there. What led you to want to transfer?
Yeah, I think I had just been there I had a great career there that I'm very thankful for, and the people around me, the coaches and my teammates, I just can say nothing but amazing things about all of them and what they've done for me. I think I just reached a point where it'd been 4 years. I felt like we had won the WCC, made the tournament. We had accomplished what I came there to help achieve. And then my head coach was moving on as well. And so it just kind of felt like all the pieces were aligning, that it was the right time for me to kind of try something new and go out of my comfort zone. And that's how I ended up here.
So what was that process like of getting here? Colby Hale, you know, has a great personality, to say the least, being able to sit down with Colby before. But what was his pitch to you to come to Arkansas?
Yeah, Colby's pitch was basically laying out a bunch of things to me and then basically being like, you're an idiot if you don't come here. Like, I would say in nicer words, but it's Colby, you know him. He calls it like it is. But he kind of set everything in front of me, like play style-wise, team culture-wise, like what we wanted to accomplish, how I would fit in with the forward line, what he thinks that I could contribute. And they just were very, like, aggressive from the jump. And I don't know, I could just see myself fitting here. And one of my old teammates, Kelsey, was here, obviously. So Colby was like, call her, ask her if we're lying about anything. Ask her to tell you exactly how it is, the good and the bad, so then you can make this complete decision.
What was that call? What did she say?
You know, she was like, it's intense, like, there's a lot, but it's like, you get to play with, like, some of the best players in the country. You get better, like, the talent and, like, the culture. Like, I just think the culture here, like, what Colby and the coaching staff and the players have been able to build over the years, like, I think it's so special, and there's there's no wonder why they've been like a top 10 program every season for the past few years. But yeah, I think she was definitely like, it's intense and it's a lot, and you kind of just, you can't take things personal, but like you are going to get better. And like, I don't know, I think you just have to put yourself in, like you adapt to the situation you're in, you know what I mean? So then at the end of it, I was just like, I was talking to Colby and he always makes fun of me for this, but I was like, yeah, so, I mean, pretty much you've given me every reason to come here, and the only reason I wouldn't is because I'm scared, and that's not a good reason to do anything. And then I came.
So what was it like the first time? Did you come here on a visit? What was the first time you stepped foot in Arkansas? As I guess the root of my question.
Yeah, I did not come here on a visit. I'd never even been to the South besides maybe a few games in club. So the first time I came here was when I had already committed here, which I came pretty early in June just because I was coming back from an ACL injury. So like wanted to be able to get accustomed to like the system and the culture, and have like 2 months to prepare for a season so that I could hit the ground running rather than doing that, you know, halfway through. But yeah, so like my first time touching down in Fayetteville, I had absolutely no idea what to expect. And it's a long drive from the airport with lots of farms and stuff. I was like, is campus in the middle of a farm? I have no idea, but I've been very, not pleasantly surprised in that I expected it to be beautiful, but I think just like, I don't know, I had no idea what to expect. So coming in, I've been very, very happy about like the community, the culture, the school. I think everything's been as I had hoped it would be.
So how was that transition when, you know, as somebody who's played college soccer for a while, you've played 4 years at Gonzaga and now coming here, for you, was that tough to navigate where you feel like you have a lot of experience, because you do, at just a different, I wouldn't say division, but a different conference?
Yeah. I think for me, it was kind of just like, I know I've have a lot of experience in college soccer and playing games and all that stuff, but there's so much that I didn't know and still I'm learning about this program and this conference and all that. So I think you kind of got to put your own stuff aside and just like step into this culture and be like, hey, I want to learn. Like I'm just sitting here, like it's nice to be like around people like Tank. Like Tank is like I think she's best forward in the country. So like I just get to watch her and be like, okay, this is how she succeeds in this system. So like this is how I can try to succeed in this system. So I think for me it was kind of just more about coming in like clean slate in certain ways, like obviously having like the work rate and all of that stuff that came in before, but in terms of culture, just being able to fully like dive into this culture rather than like hanging on to stuff from the past.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about your play on the field first of all. Did you expect this good of a start? 7 goals in 6 games? Was that expected? You know, you always want to say you expect yourself to do really good, but is this even surprising just because you're going to a new level now?
Yes, it's surprising. I mean, like you never know what is gonna come after like coming back from an injury, and I've come back from 2 long-term injuries before, and I've been able to get back to the same, but you just never know, and like injuries just have a weird relationship with your confidence. So coming back and coming to, you know, a top 10 program, I was like, I have no idea what to expect. I made the decision to come, and I'm just going to do my best and see what happens. But yeah, I could not have dreamed for things to start out this way. I think I'm very lucky. Like I think the team welcomed me in right away, like both on and off the field. And I think what's so special about like this culture is like there can kind of be a stigma with transfers of like, oh, people are coming in to take your spots or take whatever. And here, like, they just want to win. Like, they just want to be their best. So, like, anyone that can help, anyone that works hard to do that, like, gets welcomed wholeheartedly. So I think that was very helpful in getting off to a good start. But, yeah, I'm very lucky that things have worked out this way.
Absolutely. I want to go back really quickly to talk about that injury. What happened to all the people at home who don't know, how your season last year went?
Yeah, so I played 6 games last season, and then in my 6th game, I tore my ACL. I've torn both my ACLs, so this was the other one. 6 games into the season, so I got surgery on that. I'm just coming up on a year since that injury. So, yeah, and I think I started playing 10 10.5 months after. So.
And now you got 7 goals and a top 5 team in the country. Let's go back to SEC play. Let's have some fun. What are you most looking forward to now as you get into the LSUs and the Georgias and the Texases of the top teams in college soccer?
I'm so excited for SEC play. People just talk about it so much, like playing for arguably the best conference in the country and competing in that every week. I'm so excited. I think, opening match of conference play is always a big one. You want to get off to a hot start. So very excited for LSU. And then, we have some new faces in the conference. So going out to Texas to play, we're really excited for that. And then, Arkansas just, they've been able to achieve so much success in the SEC in the past few years, and that means there's always a target on your back, and it's tacky to say, but pressure is a privilege, and so I think we just have that weight on our shoulders to just continue to prove Arkansas's name and to do it for not only this team, but for all the people who have worked so hard to build this program into what it is in the past, player and coach. So,
where in the SEC are you most looking forward to going?
I think Texas. I'm really excited for that game. Gonzaga played Texas, and it was a 0-0 draw last year, and it was right after I got injured, so I missed that game going out there. So I'm really excited for that one, I think.
So you weren't able to go to Austin last year. You were back rehabbing up in the Washington area.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So we talked about that. Let's talk a little bit about kind of just, in general, how you've kind of fitted on the team as well. There's, like you've already said, there's a lot of good names. There's a lot of, really good talent on this team, and you've been able to kind of slide right in. What can you attribute that success to?
I think, like I said earlier, how open, everyone just wants the team to be the best, and I think there's so much selflessness that goes on in that. And I think a lot of it comes to, everyone just puts their own ego aside because, you have to realize, our roster from top to bottom is so talented. I could speak so many incredible things about, each person on the roster and what they bring. So I think when, however many, if I played, not as much as I maybe would want to play, or maybe I played last year, at a certain point I have to be look at the people around me. There's some games that I might not be able to bring something that they might be able to bring, or vice versa. So I think there's just so many different threats and different targets that play so well, that bring their own attributes and then play so well together in certain ways. And it's just kind of about matchups and combos and all of that. But yeah, I think that's a big part of it.
As you kind of move forward and we get more into SEC play and actually into SEC play, what are you most looking forward to?
Me personally, I'm most looking forward to I just want to finish the season and turn around and be proud of turning back a whole season. It was definitely heartbreaking to get it cut short. So I think just doing everything I can to stay healthy and be able to help the team achieve our goals in any way possible. And I'm just excited to get into SEC play and, show everyone why we're the number 5 team. I think we have just so much talent and so much hard work and effort and all the things that make for a great team that can do some special things. So I'm just excited to get out there and continue to prove it and continue to get better as well, because I think every game we learn more about ourselves as a team and about each other, and we're just going to keep getting better.
So, got to ask you a question. It was up in the air. Arkansas last year had 2 goalkeepers transfer, Sierra Cortayard and Phoebe Carver. Now you bring in 2 freshmen, Emma Parker and Keegan Smith. Keegan Smith has been taking over the net. Looks like it is her job to lose right now. What's impressed you the most about her?
She's just insane. Our Michigan State game, for whoever watched it, we were down to 10 players, and Keegan was our lifeline in that game. Some of those saves she made, I could not believe it. She's just so talented, and she's a young player. Gosh, I wish I was that good at my position as a freshman. But she's only 17, and she's already come in and made such a strong impact that I think she's only going to continue to get better and help this team in more and more ways. So we're very lucky to have her back there.
And it's so funny. I was sitting over there watching that game, being they're down to 10. Avery Wren gets the red card. Everything's kind of blowing up. And just the ability to hang on and get a draw in that tough environment was, I think, something really beneficial for the team itself. 2 more questions, then we'll get you out of here. You said you had Texas already circled in SEC play. When you just look at being at home and what the fans provide, what's that like seeing, how Arkansas fans come out and show up to almost every single game?
It's incredible, and it's such a blessing to be able to say, like, other teams don't want to come into our field because of our fan base and how devoted they are. And I think the BYU game is a perfect example. Like, that might have been my favorite game of the season, up there for sure, just because, like, we had that environment at Michigan State, which was really fun, but it was against us. And then to have that environment here where it's our people supporting us, and they're so loud and they come out in big waves, and I think that's something that doesn't go unnoticed, and it's such a big part of what we do. Like, we get so fired up by having the crowd around us, and it makes us play better because we're playing for everyone watching as well. So I think we're very lucky, and keep showing out, please.
Kate, my last question for you. If you had one word to describe the team so far, what would it be?
I'm trying to think of a non-taggy one, but
You can be tacky. It's
like,
okay.
I want to just say grit. I think, like, we've had some games where we've had to tough things out. Things haven't gone our way. Michigan State, for example, but also, like, in a lot of our games, there's been something that we might have to, like, work through, or maybe we don't come out strong, or maybe we don't hold it. And I think we've just been able to power through so many of our issues, and so many of our, if we've had a failure, we've been able to come out of it stronger and learn from it. And we keep getting better from there. Development, that too.
I like that. I like that word, development.
Yeah,
That's a good one. Kate, thank you so much for taking some time coming in to talk to us. For everybody behind the scenes, for Mike Irwin, I'm Evan Kamiko. This has been PTN Extra. Kate, again, thank you so much for being here. We'll see you all next week.
Thanks for having me.